Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Daryl here. Hope you're having a great day today. Well, we've got something truly beautiful to share with you guys. This is a Paoletti handmade T-style guitar. We are going to be checking it out today in great detail. Let's start the demo. Now, as per usual, we're going to break down this review into a few parts. We're going to talk about the specs, because clearly this is not your average Telecaster. We're going to talk about the construction. This is all handmade. The wood is from the 1800s. Very unique guitar. We're going to talk about, obviously, the tones. We're going to play through a bunch of different examples for you guys so you can really hear what this guitar sounds like. And then, of course, my final impressions and recommendations regarding this instrument. So what exactly is this guitar? Well, as you can see, it's a Paoletti and it's handmade in Italy. The case is very nice, very vintage looking, but of course we're interested in what's inside. So this guitar is the Paoletti Nancy. This is from their Loft series. Let's pull it out, take a closer look. Now, one of the most amazing things about this guitar is from the moment you crack open the case and pull it out, it is just an inspiring instrument to play. Everything about it just has so much soul and just such an incredible vibe that it just makes you want to pick it up and play for hours. There's something really special about this design, and there's really nothing out there like it. All right, let's jump into part one and find out what kind of parts Paoletti used on this guitar. All right, so let's start up on the headstock. Now, the first thing you may notice is it's not a typical T-style headstock, unless you're talking about a TELE Deluxe. But I think it just complements, the overall custom nature of this guitar really well. I think it looks pretty sharp. Now, the Paoletti insignia on the headstock is kind of engraved in or burnt in or whatever. I think it looks really classy as well. Looks great on that headstock. The tuning machines themselves are Kluson Deluxe, and they are kind of that vintage split head tuning machine. Work really well. They're very precise. There's no slop in them. So even though they look, very vintagey or whatever, they're very modern in terms of how you use them and how precise they are to use. And wrapping up the headstock, we've got a 50s style string tree on the first string and second string. Now, moving on down the neck, we've got a beautifully cut bone nut, and right from the beginning, there's been no string hangups. Tuning stability has been very good. You can bend behind the nut and in front of the nut as you would want to do on a T-style guitar, and it's been holding tune really well. So great job, Paoletti. Now, the neck and fingerboard are both maple with a 12-inch radius. Now, moving on down to the body is where things get really interesting. This is chestnut, which as far as I know is unique to Paoletti. I don't think anybody else is using this kind of wood on a larger type scale. So really unique. And again, this is all handmade. It's reclaimed from wine barrels from the 1800s. So this is old wood. So as soon as you pick it up, you're like, oh, this is something unique, something special, and something I find inspirational. And on the body, you've got all this brass hardware that's got this interesting patina on it. The bridge, brass, compensated saddles. These are Paoletti's own pickups. And of course, we've got the shotgun shell, tone, and volume knobs. Now, on the back side of the Paoletti, we've got our aged brass neck plate, which looks really cool. And we've got the serial number kind of stamped into the back of the neck. So those are some of the brief highlights of this guitar and what makes it so unique and stand out from the crowd. Of course, I'll link to this guitar in the video description below for everybody who wants the full list of specs. Now, in regards to construction, I'll share a few brief thoughts with you guys. Now, as I mentioned before, it's all handmade in Italy, and I've got to say the fit and finish and everything on this guitar is spectacular. It's just absolutely beautiful. Now, this is a vintage inspired guitar, and really the body is not vintage inspired. It's just pure vintage, which is really cool. But as you note, there's no truss rod adjustment at the headstock here. It is at the base of the neck. The fingerboard edges are not rolled as you would find on a vintage instrument, and the profile is closer to a 50s style neck than really anything else. So, with the vintage tuning machines and string tree, truss rod placement, neck profile, and the feel of the neck, it's all vintage. Now, in terms of how all the brass pieces are fit together and cut, the bridge and everything, it is amazing. And I love the aged patina on this brass. That's only going to get more intense as you play it over the years. The bridge, really cool. It's kind of like a 3/4 ashtray. So you have a little bit of room here if you want to do some like trim picking on these bass strings. Nothing will get in your way. So I thought that design was really cool. And even though it is a vintage inspired design, you still get compensated saddles, which means intonation should be able to be set, in a more modern way so that you're in tune, down low and up high. Now the fitment of the neck to the body is excellent. Super tight, no gaps. Really the only thing I've seen like it is perhaps like a G&L or something like that, but really, really nice neck joint there. No issues at all. Very, very precise. So as you guys would expect for a guitar in this price range, it is very precise, very well made. All right, it's time for some tones. Let's plug this baby in, see what she can do. As per usual, we're going to be plugged into my Blue Angel amp, mic'd up with a Rode NT1 and an Earthworks SR25. Let's kick things off in the bridge pickup and find out what kind of classic tones we can get out of the Paoletti. Now that we've heard some tones in isolation, let's go ahead and do our 1-minute solo. Here we go. All right, so here are my final thoughts on the Paoletti. Let's start off with the aesthetics. Well, in my opinion, this is one of the most gorgeous T-style guitars I've ever seen. Absolutely magnificent, and really turns heads wherever it goes. My wife doesn't really care about any of my guitars, but when she saw this one, she's like, this is a guitar I would actually hang up in our living room. Although aesthetics may not be the highest thing in the order of importance, let's not fool ourselves. People aren't going to buy a guitar they don't like the look of. It is important, and for me, this guitar is gorgeous. Now, as for the specs and construction, this is a vintage-inspired instrument with a few notable exceptions. So as I mentioned before, it's got a flatter 12-inch radius, which makes playing easier, and medium jumbo frets. Other than that, the neck profile, the location of, the truss rod adjustment, the looks, the pickups are voiced, fairly moderate. They're not high output single coils. They're very vintage voiced. So it's kind of like this interesting combination of vintage tone and features, but with some more modern playability. So that out of the way, what it really comes down to is this. If you're in the market for a high-end T-style guitar, you got to check out the Paoletti. It's got features that you can't find on other guitars, such as the 150-year-old chestnut body, all the brass work, and really nice, pleasing sounding vintage pickups. So, really compares to a Fender custom shop made out of Italy, all handmade. Longtime subscribers to this channel know I'm a massive TELE fan, and I'm happy to say this guitar did not disappoint. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Links to the guitar, the backing track, the t-shirt store, the tab store, all in the video description below. Have yourself an amazing day. We'll see you guys next week.